All right. What's going on, Cade? Celine? What's up? All right. This light is brutal, but I need some fresh air in my office. All right, let's get my TikTok chat out here. I posted an interesting video on why we think end of February and March is going to be a cool down again for out east. Think. Keyword. Ugh. I need to do some stretching. I do so for North Carolina Outer Banks. Probably not, Jaded. Do you have any in your forecast? If you think you're going to get snow twice in a couple weeks out there, you know how tough it is to get snow out there. We'll see what happens end of February, March, but there's none in forecastable range. But the video I just posted explains why we could see a return to cold air and snow out east again at the end of February, March. God, these animals getting all this hair all over my clothes. Can't stand it. I'll let some people get in here since I just started stream. Literally 2 seconds ago. God, I've got my glasses all scratched up. Thanks for the follow, Alejandro. Close to 100K. Just over 1,000 more. Will Tennessee have any severe threat with the end of January Dixie Alley projections? Potentially. We're going to look at all of our latest models here in a second. I'm just letting some people get into the live since I just started. You know, we're going to go over it. Will South Baltimore see any snow? We'll see. None in the forecast right now. Here's our latest Euro we've got moving around right now. So, Euro still like some snow down into New Mexico, some rainfall out there into Texas. Let's go to our GFS 12Z should be completely loaded, so we'll look at this first. And a little clipper system, maybe dropping a little bit of snowfall into parts of northern and eastern Tennessee. Well, we'll see if any of that's probably going to get stuck up in the Appalachian Mountains. Rainfall in the southeast, that doesn't look to be too severe of an event. We've got a clipper system moving through this northeast as we move into the beginning of next week. Really through next week, we have 1, 2, kind of 3 clipper systems that want to move through the northeast. Could be a decent amount of snow for some areas, including you guys up there in New England. Here's where we get our first kind of worrisome look right here for severe weather down here in the southeast. You can see this kind of low-level jet wanted to kick in there and punch some, potential severe weather squall line down here through the southeast. So we're gonna have to watch that right there. That's gonna be our first event Friday into Saturday next week. And again, this could also bring big snow up there into New England again. But then here we go. Big warm shift out east and in the southeast. Big warm shift. And here comes snow up into the northern plains like I've been talking about. Up through the central plains, potentially. You can see some more snow up through the central plains. I mean, this is the pattern we expect it to start moving into. Now, if you guys, what's going on? We got the 4 to 5 day. Oh, would you look at that? Would you look at that? Yeah, this is going to trend east. I mean, this is going to move east. All right, guys. See, let me go to the SPC. This isn't what I wanted. Let's get in here. Here we go. What's going on, guys? Happy Saturday. So our Storm Prediction Center's already given us day 4, day 5 outlook here. Chance for some severe weather down through central Texas. We would expect this to start moving out east. And this to get enhanced as we move forward. Very likely. The only reason this isn't showing the only reason we're not seeing any sort of more severe risk here is just because it's 4 to 5 days out. We have a setup for some pretty bad weather, so I'd expect this severe weather outlook to increase and in intensity and, again, to begin to drift off east as we move forward these next few days. Oh, it's Sunday. Happy Sunday. Sorry, I got my days mixed up. Whatever. The SBC mentioned a potential. Yeah, here. So let's look at what the SPC's, the Storm Prediction Center's catching on to here. Again, let's move forward. About 4 days. Here we go. You've got this low developed down here, pretty strong low. This is the low that is kind of producing its own cold air, wanting to put a lot of snow into New Mexico, Colorado, and then eventually shoot off into the northeast. Let me fix this here. 1 second, guys. There you go. And this is going to be interacting with a lot of warmth, a lot of moisture off the Gulf. And again, we're going to get a lot of instability through here. So we'll have a little bit of a low-level jet kick in, and we'll get likely some good vorticity. And this is going to move off into the east. Again, this is going to be a threat not just for some severe weather and heavy rainfall. We'll have to watch on the tornado outlook with this type of setup as well. So, still a little bit of time on this. But, again, there's a reason the Storm Prediction Center is giving us this outlook 4 to 5 days out. If it looks like it has the potential to be significant, they'll start labeling that for us a little bit farther out than your typical 2 to 3 days. So we need to watch this first event here. Again, the second event is still what I'm watching. This is pushed back a little bit, but around the 6th and 7th, this would potentially be a much worse situation. It's farther out. Luckily, we have some time to see how things adjust. But again, what's the trend here? The trend is starting off February with, the chance for multiple severe weather outbreaks to the south and through the east. So, this to me doesn't look great. I think we may get off without. I don't know, Matt. I don't know what you think. This looks bad on future radar right now. I just think our Cape potential is going to be much stronger with what this system would potentially bring down here to the south and east. What's your opinion? I think our instability with the second potential system than this is going to be way worse. I want to know what you think. A potential for an MCS? Yeah, next week everyone better be ready. Are you speaking snow? Yeah, we're gonna get into snow right now. Give me 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. Yep, we're going to get into it. I just posted a video on my TikTok talking about what's going on with our MJO cycle and why it looks like we may get a big cold return back at the end of February into March. We could see some big winter systems out there in the east again, potentially south and east. I think east as we get into late February, March. I'll go over that right now. I just posted a video about it, but I'll go over that right now. Yeah, I mean, we could see. We're going to see an MCS with this probably. I just don't think I'm not worried about. Like I said, we're going to have to cover this, and this is likely going to. What I'm worried about with this too is some flash flooding potential. You can see how much rainfall this wants to drop. Let's move this forward here. This is going to be a lot of moisture in a very short period of time. You can see widespread here, anywhere from 4 all the way up to 9 inches of rainfall. It's going to be pretty quick, but again, that instability on the second one looks to be a little bit more significant. So, but we need to watch both, and both of these need to be taken seriously. Yeah, flooding will be bad this week. I think so. All right, guys. I'm going to quickly go over basically what I posted in online on my TikTok today. Why do I think what's going on with our MJO? Here's our MJO. Here's our Madden Julian oscillation. For those of you that don't know, this is basically a seasonal event. This is your MJO is basically a pocket of clouds and moisture, rainfall that moves from the Indian Ocean out through the Pacific Ocean in a 30 to 60 day time frame, and you can look at the movement of the MJO and take that data, and it can give you a good idea of what our troughing and ridging is going to look like in North America, depending on the phase of the MJO. Here is our European forecast for the MJO. We're currently in phase 6, moving into phase 7, and this is matching up really well with what our beginning of our February is going to look like. What do we think the beginning of our February is going to look like? Well, let's go into here. There you go. Now, what does the MJO think phase 7 should look like, which is what we're going into in the beginning of February? Check this out, guys. Our MJO thinks that on average, phase 7 during this time frame, during our January to March time frame, is going to be a big warm-up out east, phase 7. Look at that. And look at what we're supposed to move into. Our MJO is really lining up. Our MJO averages is really lining up with our CPC outlook for the beginning of February. So, what is this person saying? Don't choose the Senate to end weather modification. All right, we're not gonna go over that right now. So we're not gonna get into that. So again, phase 7 warm up of the warm up out east. This is really lining up with what the CPC thinks. Now, when would we be expected to enter back into phase 8, phase 1 of the MJO? Well, probably as we push through February into March. What do we typically see with the phase 8 and phase 1 of the MJO? Well, historically, on average, something like this. You notice what happens here? Big cool down back into the east. Big cool down back into the east. So this is just one part of the story. We need to look at a lot. Just because your MJO phase says you're going to be much colder or have a big cool down doesn't mean you're going to. You need a lot of things to kind of work in tandem. So we can go in here and we can look at our teleconnections. We can see our EPO. Here's our Eastern Pacific Oscillation as we move into the middle of February, or we're approaching the middle of February. Big dip in our EPO. That's going to bring some cold air back out east again. Our PNA wants to begin to move back towards our neutral line. That's going to be associated colder air out east again. Our teleconnections and MJO phase are trying to tell us that although we're going to warm up in the east for a couple weeks here, that may not be the rest. That it doesn't look like that's going to be the rest of the story for winter. It looks more like a brief warm up with some severe weather back into a cool down again. And this is going to be a mess, especially going into spring with all of this. Obviously, with these crazy oscillations going on in temperatures, especially out here in the central and east. So that's kind of what I talked about in the video I posted today. So for I get asked that every live. Oh, are we gonna get any more snow out east? Is our winter over? Blah 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 blah. And my short answer, based on our teleconnections and our MJO setup, is no. Your winter's not done in the east. It's going to be hard to get another southern snowstorm down here, okay? Why? Because to get snow very far south, that typically needs to happen in January or early February. Why? Because that is the coldest period of the year, and that is one of the only times where you can really see below freezing air approach the Gulf, which is what we had happen. The farther you push through February and into March, even if we have a big Arctic outbreak, that air is really struggling to get, that below freezing air struggles to get down here to the south. But with our teleconnection and MJO outlook, it's not impossible to get another southern sweeper again and potentially get snow down here. Not impossible. It's going to be hard, but I think the cool down is going to come back out here again as we push through the month. So something to watch out for. Again, immediately though, what are we looking at? We're looking at our severe weather. We're looking at our potential severe weather threat here. Obviously, our SBC is thinking we could have some, significant mesocyclones spin up in this. We'll see. Again, I'm more worried about the second event, but this is going to be, this isn't your typical severe weather event. You have, again, your main troughing out here. You have a low that is kind of producing its own cold air out here. So there's going to be some instability with this. How much is still up in question, but the rainfall is what I'm certain of. The rainfall with this is going to be intense. That is what I'm sure of. We'll have to see. Wait a little bit, for tornado projections, how that's going to look. But the rainfall is going to be significant with this. All right, I'm going to get the chat. I'm going to start answering as many questions as I can. Let me just take a sip of this and let's get going. Well, I think someone said, yeah, Matthew, hopefully February will give the Midwest some snow. We need it. I think February will. Mezzo said that in the Dixie Alley, we might get significant severe weather. Yeah. What's going on, Santiago, Indiana? Celine, Cade. Snow in Texas. North and western Texas does look like we may see some snow from this event right here. Central, southeastern Texas is going to be tough. But you can see what are we still seeing right here, guys? Major Arctic blast in the west. I've talked about this in my not my last video, but the 2 videos before that. This would be a significant cold weather event. This would give Texas, central, eastern Texas a chance for snow if we saw this. I mean, this right here, guys, it's a little too early, but this right here again, as we get closer to mid-February, this would give you guys a chance for snow again in the south and potentially through Texas. A little far out. Let's hold our horses here. But there is model consensus on this cold blast. If we go and we take a look right here, 500 millibar height, and we look at, let's go do our... Check this out. Let's go to our slideshow. We'll go compare models. We'll go way out here. And we'll look at our 00Z. Look at this, guys. Look at our Euro and look at our GFS. Okay, that's model consensus on the globals. I know it's far out, but it's model consensus of this moving in here. It also makes sense around this time frame, potentially with where our MJO phase is going to be sliding into. This is going to be, again... That's why I've been telling you guys in the south, even though you keep seeing this big warm up over the next 2 weeks, we may not be done. We may not be done. It doesn't look like we're done. It looks like we're going to get warm for a couple weeks and then immediately slam back into a harsh winter as we approach the end of February. So we'll see. A little bit. We need a little bit more time. I'm talking in outlook terms right here, not in forecast terms. So I want you guys to take all this with a grain of salt. But this is what, this is. I'm just letting you know what the data is showing. Shall we expect any major snowstorm in the mid-Atlantic? I've been saying that all winter. I think we haven't seen our biggest snowstorm in the mid-Atlantic yet. I don't think we've seen our biggest snowstorm in the mid-Atlantic yet this winter. I don't think so. Maybe we have. I don't think so. If you're asking me my honest opinion, I don't think so. Just because of what's happening with our move into phase, especially with our move on the MJO, I think that's going to give us a few shots of snow up there in the Midwest or in the Mid-Atlantic potentially. See if we get a nor'easter type look out of that. You can. It looks like West Virginia is split in half. Storms in the south, snow in the south. If we look at like our latest GFS, you can see I've talked about West Virginia. Again, our jet stream moving forward wants to really set up in a pattern to bring ridging out here to the east, troughing out here to the west for a couple weeks, snow and below average temps, severe weather above average temps, and anyone caught in the middle here is going to have to deal with some icy and sleet and some very strange weather conditions here. Is it going to snow in Washington, D.C.? Again, I don't think our winter's over on the East Coast. In like a lamb, out like a lion. All right. What? Will we get snow in South Louisiana again? Paige, whichever one you go by. When was the last time you got snowfall in southern Louisiana before this storm? 18 years? Lee? When was the last time you got snowfall in South Louisiana before this storm? 2017. How much snow fell in Southern Louisiana in 2017? Oh, 6 inches in the boundary. Actually, that's not bad. So, okay, so it had only been about 7 years since you got snow? Well, if it took 7 years to get snow again, I'm just going to tell you, Lee, I wouldn't expect it twice in one winter. Your odds aren't great, but with this type of pattern, it's not impossible, like I said. With this type of pattern, it's not impossible. So that's good. But you're still pretty small odds. I would put it below 1%. Just don't want sleet. Yeah. Well, I think that's what I'd more expect if you're going to see any winter weather. I'd expect it to be more sleet or ice potential if we see that type of polar plunge. But not impossible to see more snow down on the Gulf Coast if we see this huge Arctic blast there pushing into the middle of February. It's an interesting look for sure. Is North Texas done with snow for the season? No, North Texas is expected to get snow, I mean, in like 72 hours. A little bit up there in the Panhandle. PNW, Tacoma, Washington area. It's been cold but dry. Yep, it's going to... Here we go. Here's what's going on with you guys. Here's our CBC outlook on precipitation up there in the Pacific Northwest. We're expecting your precipitation to move back into above average, not just to start off February, but as we push through it to remain slightly above average as well. So moisture is returning back to the Pacific Northwest along with below average temperatures, which means you're going to have a chance for some low elevation snow in the Pacific Northwest. I'm talking about Portland, Seattle may have a chance to get some snow. Should we expect any major snowstorm in Maryland? Again, I think the Mid-Atlantic hasn't seen the last of their snow. So we have a good outlook as we move through February into March for more snow up along that coast. We've got some good snowfall moving up into... God, Watertown's been getting slammed this year. Let me just go to our normal radar really quickly here on Radar Omega so we can just see what's going on. Got some bad weather up there in northern Louisiana. Some snow falling up there in the northeast. And we've got some rainfall moving through LA, guys. That is fantastic. Got some rainfall moving through Los Angeles over the areas where a lot of those fires are actually. So that's nice. Appreciate the follows, guys, and the subs. Thank you. All of these snow systems in the models look way weaker now compared to the last few days. Yeah, let's see. How's our Euro doing on loading? Oh, not bad. Okay. Here's our Euro. I mean, I was talking about this one for a while. The Euro always had this one much weaker, or for the most part, than wow, the Euro is making this system look a little bit more significant, but yeah, the Euro, there's too much warm air up into the north and west with this. And I was talking with you guys about this. And I've said it if you've been in my streams recently. This snowstorm down here is detached from our main troughing. Here's our cold air. Here's our very cold air. Here's our warm air. Why is there a snow system in the middle of it? Why? Because it's a decent enough low pressure system. It's pulling its own cold air down from aloft, down to the surface. So it's producing its own cold air. But for that to move up as a major snowstorm, it's tough when the cold air is sitting up here. It's not associated. It's not really, your troughing isn't associated with this. So I think we could get this snow enhanced a little bit. I think it might be wrong up here. I think we actually may get some more snow through this region with this, but we got to wait a little bit. Still far enough out. We're going to see some changes there. The Euro's getting real, keeping all of this cold weather really far to the north, but you can see what it wants to do up in the Pacific Northwest as we push into next weekend. A lot of cold air moving back in, rainfall and snow. Rain or snow in El Paso, Texas. Right now, it's looking more likely to be mixing or rain. Here's our Cuchera right here. There's where our snowfall is expected to fall. So, El Paso, yeah, you're going to be on the struggle bus there. Look at our northeast, though. Look at our Northeast right here over the next about 5 days. New England. Some of these coastal areas as well. Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island could get in on some snow. We still got that cold air up to the north. You can see it just by looking at our isobar lines up here. We still got troughing holding this cold air up here in the Northeast for a little bit. Are the chances increasing for severe weather in Chicago? You know, severe weather-wise, it's going to be tough to get severe weather that far up to the north in this month. You need some of this heat a little bit farther up to the north, but you could get some, if you're talking in the form of ice or mixing or weird kind of bad winter weather, you could see some up there in Chicago. So that's a concern. Not really severe weather in terms of severe thunderstorms or tornadoes or anything like that. Is Dallas going to get hit bad by severe weather? It's an area we're watching. I think the concern would be, actually Dallas down to Houston really this time. A lot of our last couple tornado outbreaks were farther down to the south than Dallas. Dallas probably will get in on a little bit of that. Although I think our most intense, if we do see some like QLCS tornadoes popping up in here, we're gonna really be watching that Mississippi, southeastern Arkansas through Louisiana, and then again really stretching almost from like San Antonio up through Houston. This corridor right here we're really gonna have to watch for some strong tornado potential. So just have to keep our eye on it. Still a little far out. We're gonna watch out how these models adjust over the next couple days. Are we getting more snow in Georgia? Not impossible. If you do, it's gonna be not in the next couple weeks. It's gonna be closer mid-February to late February. Same with Pensacola, Florida. I wouldn't expect any more snow this winter in Pensacola, Florida, if we're being honest. You guys get snow down there like once every decade. The odds it happens twice in a year are very low. Not that it couldn't, especially with the Arctic blast where we could be seeing in the middle of February. But there's nothing on the outlook right now that would tell me we're going to get more snow on the Gulf Coast. Maybe some mixing or sleet if that thing dives down far enough. What's once in a decade? Snow into the Panhandle of Florida. Actually, like good snow into the Panhandle of Florida is like once a century. Pensacola's previous record was 3 inches. So, what about Charleston? Again, guys, as we move into the middle of February, towards the end of February, our winter is going to begin to favor. Our winter weather is going to begin to favor out here. For anyone who wasn't here earlier, let me go back through this just so I can explain it to you. We got 8 in New Orleans. Yeah, I know. Oh, trust me, Abby. I know all the totals. I've been on top of it. It's crazy. So, listen, every time any sort of significant weather event happens, people say climate change. I don't care whether anyone in here believes in climate change or not. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to turn this into a political channel, but which is what climate change has been turned into. But guys, there's been significant weather events that have happened all throughout history, and they're going to continue to happen. Not every time a crazy weather event happens, it's not always climate change. Sometimes you just have the right factors. We live in a very variable planet in a very variable atmosphere. So weird things happen all the time. Weird things have been happening since the inception of Earth. Like, you know what I mean? I know it's like this every single time a bad weather event happens, everyone yells climate change. Maybe sometimes it does have to do with it, but it's like, I think, we've seen snow on the Gulf Coast before. We're going to see it again. It's like, God, everyone, anytime any weather event happens, everyone's like, they're cloud seeding, climate change, the government's changing our weather, manipulating our weather. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just how weather works. This is meteorology. It's not all crazy. Stuff like this, records are always going to be broken. We're going to see, this is just kind of how the world works. Azul and Tormenta, I appreciate you guys. Your map is wrong. It's Gulf of America. I think it is now. Yeah, I wonder when they're going to start changing the names. I think it is officially Gulf of America now. And yeah, I think it is actually now. So anyways, guys, here's what's happening. Here's what's happening. Here's our MJO or Madden Julian oscillation. All this is there's an event that happens. It's a seasonal event. It's a A strong low pressure system forms in the Indian Ocean. This would be phase one, or really this would be over the African continent. And then it moves into the Indian Ocean, and then it moves through your islands down there in the southwestern Pacific. And it's a big body of clouds, rainfall, moisture. This is what also contributes to your monsoon seasons down there in the maritime islands and in India and in Australia. The phase of the MJO. Now, once we get into about phase 6 of the MJO, our Madden-Julian Oscillation, this pocket of moisture and rainfall is moving into the Pacific towards the U.S. This is when we can see kind of significant effects from the MJO on our troughing and ridging pattern throughout North America. Now, we're entering phase 7 of the MJO. What's typically associated with phase 7 of the MJO? A warm-up on the east. What's being projected right now by our Climate Prediction Center? Our Climate Prediction Center right now, would you look at that? It's projecting a big warm-up in the east as we happen to be moving into phase 7 of our MJO, of our Madden-Julian Oscillation. Now, we would be entering phase 8 somewhere in February and back into phase 1 probably somewhere into March. What are phase 8 and phase 1 associated typically with in this kind of time frame, January to March? Well, we typically are going to see a big cool down in the east again. So now with this and with the look that we have on our teleconnections, again with a diving EPO around the same time, with this, which is cold air back in the east, and with a rising PNA, Pacific North American Oscillation, which is associated with cold air back in the east, and an Arctic Oscillation that is holding neutral to positive, which is another big build of air up in the Arctic that could really break at any time. We'll see. This is kind of a signal towards a potentially major cool down back out east and in the south into mid to late February into March. We'll have to see. Why is there a helicopter over my house? With the potential for some good winter storms out east again as we push later into winter. So that's just kind of, now none of this is set in stone. Outlooks are very tough. The MJO is actually newer. It's somewhat newer to the weather world. It wasn't even discovered until like a couple decades ago. No one even knew what it was until, I don't know, God, someone's going to correct me on this, but like the 80s or something, no one even knew what the MJO was, or 90s. I think it was first discussed in like the 70s, and they started taking it seriously in the 90s. But we've noticed that it can really help us with understanding where our troughing and ridging is going to be over North America. Appreciate the follows. Appreciate the subs, guys. Does snow look possible anytime soon for Central Ohio? I think Central Ohio's, right here on our latest GFS, it wants to put snow into Central Ohio literally on Wednesday. So that's a Clipper system, though. A good snowstorm into Central Ohio isn't in the forecast right now. But again, with our outlook, it looks like it will become more possible mid-February into late February. Mid-coast Maine, Maine, you've got multiple Clipper systems moving over here. So one of these is probably going to drop some snowfall across most of the state, or a little bit of snowfall. We'll see what happens here. This is an interesting look right here on our GFS. This would be a ton of snow into all of New England. What does our latest Euro say? Is it loaded enough to catch on to that? You see our Euro puts that snow up there too. It's not as amplified, but not impossible. Wow. And the Euro really, really wants to get us in kind of a zonal flow for a while, where we're cold up north and we're warm down in the south. But again, you can see what's happening at the end of this latest update of the Euro. Watch what's happening out west. Here comes a big trough. Here comes some major troughing out west. So does this dig? We'll see. Let's let this load a little bit more. What does our GFS see at that 250-hour time frame? Our GFS sees a much bigger trough than our latest Euro. So our Euro's pulling back on it a tiny bit. But maybe not. Maybe not. We'll see. And at least the timing's off a little bit. Southwest VA. You guys have a chance here. The Euro wants to put a little snow into southwestern Virginia. Now, this is going to be at elevation, though. This is likely going to be just at elevation on Monday morning, Sunday night into Monday. Other than that, you guys are going to start to warm up and see a lot of rainfall as we move through the first couple weeks of February. Your winter is going to take a little break before coming back. Are the chances for severe weather increasing in Chicago? I've never seen. I still have yet to see any chance for severe weather. Like I know a lot of people. That's been asked a few times, and I never saw a chance for severe weather in Chicago. Icy weather, maybe mixing kind of a bad winter storm, but like when I'm talking severe weather, I'm talking flooding, tornadoes, thunderstorms, windstorms. Thanks, Kimberly. Central Minnesota, snow. I do think again the northern plains are going to get their snow back here. Now you can see multiple clippers that want to move through the northern plains, and then as we get in here later into our Euro, this right here would probably bring a lot of snow to everyone out here. This type of setup, this is that significant troughing we're talking about as we push into the second week of February. So again, this setup does now. This time frame has moved back when we expect our significant snowfall back into this area. It's pushed back from really probably the beginning of February, more like the first week of February, closer to the second week of February. But we still have the same look. We still are expecting as we move into February, our temperatures up here through the first couple weeks to be below average, and expecting you guys to see above average precipitation. So you put one and one together, and that is. You have higher expectations for above average snowfall in that region in February, and that has not changed. You have a great weekend too, Mio. Outer Banks, North Carolina. Yeah, again, we're going to start to see a warm up out there, and we're going to have to worry about some severe weather. Maybe not as far out as the Outer Banks, but as we push later into February, it looks like our winter weather may return. Nebraska's near 60 for the next 2 weeks. I wouldn't say for the next 2 weeks. The Euro puts us into a zonal flow. The Euro puts us into a zonal flow for a while, bringing above average temperatures really to everyone down here. So we can look at our temperatures. What does that look like? There's Nebraska. I don't see any 60s. Still 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 don't see any 60s. Maybe here. Maybe late in the next weekend. Still don't see it. I actually haven't seen the temperatures reach 60. I mean, here, yeah, as you get into maybe the first few days of February, could you sit up in the 60s for a little bit as highs? Possibly. But your cold air is going to come back in. This cold air is going to begin to settle in as we push into February. And we're going to be seeing more of a warm trend down here and more of a cold air trend settling in up here. Troughing means let's show you. Let's go out real quick. Let's get our 500 millibar jet stream. This is halfway up above our head between us and the top of where all our weather happens. We're in the troposphere. This is between us on the ground and the top of the troposphere, halfway up. Right here, this is what we would consider a trough. Your jet stream dipping down. This allows cold air to sink in to this. It's a trough. It's like a little bowl, and it allows cold air to sink in. Now, the opposite of that would be a ridge, which the best way, this right here would be considered a ridge. Warm air, these winds would be pulling warm air up into the ridge while cold air is being pulled down into the trough. And this type of look right here is meridional troughing, where you have trough move through, ridge move through, and then right here we go into almost a zonal flow, where we're not really getting significant ridging or troughing. We're having our jet stream just flow across the country for a while, which is just going to warm up down the areas down here and keep the areas up to the north cold. So instead of having what we had through a lot of December and January, where we had troughing sitting out here and ridging out here, meaning hot and cold, we're going to have a zonal flow setting up in the beginning of February, where what this is instead it's vertical. It's going to be hot. And when I say hot and cold, I mean above average and then below average temperatures. So, but again, we expect that to flip a little bit more into a troughing out here, ridging out here. So hot, cold pattern as we move farther into February. And then as we get into the end of February, we expect this to completely flip. If that helps. Upstate New York. I mean, Nothing, you guys have some Clipper systems moving through, and you're going to be below average for a little bit longer. Nothing crazy happening up there. I mean, you can see how much snow they want, how much snow the new Euro wants upstate New York with these Clipper systems. You could see, I think it's overdoing it a little bit on this snow, but if we push it out about 4 days, really a wide swath of 4 to 7 inches through upstate New York, with the Watertown area overperforming as it always does because the Watertown area just gets slammed. But it's a good amount of snowfall for you guys over the next 4 days. But this really encompasses all of New England. And this isn't any sort of major winter storm moving through. These are your, whatever you want to call them, your Alberta Clippers. Just some Clipper systems moving over, but it's cold enough to give you a good snow ratio. So the snow will accumulate quickly. Flying out to Chicago on the 6th. Am I good? Yeah. No one knows what's going to happen out on the 6th. Right now, models are projecting a winter storm to move through Chicago on the 6th, but there's plenty of time for this to change. This is 264 hours out. We do not have accurate models out to this time frame, but I would say there's a signal. Now, we can look at our GFS around that time frame as well, and the GFS also sees a winter storm into Chicago around that time frame. So I would keep my eye on this moving forward. I'd continue to get updates because there's a signal for a bad winter storm in Chicago around the 6th. But again, this timing could be off. This storm could be down here and you could be good. Or the storm, if this speeds up a little bit, could actually be out of your hair. Although look at what our GFS wants to do. So we need a little bit more time to it's not in forecastable range, but there is a signal for some bad weather around that time period through Chicago. Could St. Louis see any snow in the month of February? I'd expect it to see some snow in the month of February, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to be, like I said, the way our weather wants to, our jet stream wants to set up, I think you're going to be dealing with a lot of mixing, sleet, freezing rain potentially into areas of Missouri. But we do have a look as we get into the 2nd and 3rd week of February. For some snowstorms through this region again. So, yeah, again, the 8th of February, if I told you, it's probably not going to happen. It's impossible. You need to wait at least another 5 days to really have a believable signal for what's going to happen around that time in Chicago. Could Alabama see snow again? Not impossible. I wouldn't expect it over the next couple of weeks, but we'll see what happens at the end of February into March. It's going to be warm for a while in Tampa, especially that far down to the southeast. There's really no projections of a major cool down back down there into Florida until maybe the 3rd week of February. So it's going to be quite a while. But it will return. No problem, Mary. Is Iowa going to start getting more active winter weather? Oh, yes, you will. I haven't gotten more than 2 inches this year. Yep, not every year is the same. Some years you overperform, some years you underperform. Iowa's in a good spot to see active winter weather is the word for it. Hopefully it's not like this and it's not a bunch of ice and sleet. But our winter storms are going to want to start tracking like this and like this for a little bit here. So that's why we're watching this region. It's going to much different look than than January, that's for sure. Any more cold weather for Southeast Texas? Not in the forecastable future, but again, moving into the 2nd, 3rd week of February, it looks like we will get a return. It's cold, well below average. It looks like we will. 1 second, guys. One second. Alrighty. I appreciate the follows and subs, guys. Thank you. We're almost at 100K on TikTok. Almost at 100K. All I want to do is celebrate 100K. Thank you, guys. Tennessee. Angel, I appreciate you. Tennessee, again, we're worried about severe weather, and you're going to have warmth stick around for a while. Look at the end of our Euro here, guys. Look at the end of our Euro. Again, do I believe the future radar when we're out this far? No, this is what we call La La Land. What I will entertain, though, is the troughing and ridging pattern. So major trough here. Obviously, our GFS and Canadian see this. Ridging out here. Our GFS and Canadian see this. So are we going to see this exact radar that the Euro thinks February 9th? No, not going to happen. That this would be the most accurate model. This would be the most accurate run in history if that happened. But do I believe that a winter storm like this could form? And could this sweep down and bring snow and then turn into a nor'easter type thing with the outlook we have, our teleconnection MJO outlook? Yes, this is what I'm concerned with moving into mid to late February. So I'm not going to believe this future radar. Way too far out to believe this future radar. But this pattern, this is something I'd expect to happen in this type of pattern we have moving forward. So that's why in my video today I posted, I said, Southeast, you may not be done with winter. You guys are going to feel very hot for a couple weeks here, and you're going to be like, damn. You're going to be in like the 80s roasting in Louisiana, and you're going to be like, God damn, winter's over. But I'd just wait because the outlook for you guys anywhere down there, I know people are like, what about Mississippi? Well, you know what? Mississippi's next to Louisiana. Okay? What about Tennessee? You guys are in the Southeast. Okay? Ohio Valley, I think you... Listen, when I talk about the Southeast, I'm talking about, let's just do a broad circle here, okay? Like, you know what I mean? We'll just say there. Hi from Ohio. What's going on, Sean? What is going on? Boston. Hey, Boston might get some surprise accumulation over the next 4 days with some of those Clipper systems moving through in your snow ratio. David, I appreciate you. Cancun. I'm just looking at the lower 48 next week. I mean this week. I'm not looking at. I will do. Typically, yeah. I mean it right now, I'm just looking at the lower 48 or kind of North America. What's going on, Brittany? Just because once I start looking into other regions, I spend every day looking at our maps through the lower 48, understanding what our patterns are and what our MJO is doing in this region of the world. And it's very complicated to just say, hey, what's going to happen? I can just pull up the GFS and on Radar Omega and look at the rainfall down there in Cancun over the next week or two, but I'm not going to have confidence if that future radar is right or wrong because I haven't been studying the atmospheric setup down there like I have been the lower 48 every single day I wake up. So to do that, I would need a little bit of time to analyze it and give you my actual opinion that's not just based off of looking at a radar or future radar. Anything coming to Oregon? We're expecting, again, here's the Euro as we get into next weekend. Okay, let's actually zoom back out here for you guys in the Pacific Northwest. Here we go. You see this low pressure right here moving in off the coast. As we get into February 1st, we have some cold air, some moisture moving back up into the Pacific Northwest. And right behind it, here you go. You've got a little train right here as well of some moisture. You're really sitting on... This isn't going to be a ton of snow. This is going to be kind of a mixing event, heavy rainfall event. But then right behind it, here we go. Here's your troughing out west, out in the Pacific Northwest. Here's your dig in the jet stream. And this is when you're going to have potential to get some low elevation snow and some significantly below average temperatures back out there in the Pacific Northwest. So we'll say once we enter into the February 6th timeframe and our jet stream kind of wants to continue to dig. Wow, look at the Euro on this. Look at the Euro. This would be a storm right here. Oh my gosh, this would be a storm. We're going to have some severe weather and some bad winter storms, guys, as we get into mid to late February. I'm telling you. This would be so significant. Okay, too far out to take too seriously, but it's going to be so active. We're going to have so much instability through February in the lower 48. Will Las Vegas get any rain soon? Southern California is getting some rain right now. Some of that is supposed to move over into the Vegas area within like the next 24 hours. We can look at our quantitative precipitation out there in the southwest. Look at that. See that? You would think Vegas would get in on a little bit of this. Here's our kind of precipitation shield right there. Down there in the southwest over the next 48 hours. 48 to 72 hours. Is it in your forecast? Let's see. Let's see. Does the Apple weather app see it? Yes, it does. Good. I would have been mad if it didn't. Any snowstorm for Nebraska. We are expecting a few winter storms through that region in February. The problem is, depending on how our jet stream sets up, you don't want to be on the ice and mixing side of it, but I don't think you will be. I think you'll be on the snow side. If you were to believe the Euro, the next big winter storm that could drop a lot of snow into Nebraska would be around, we're still talking 8-9 days out. So we'll watch that. Any severe weather forecast for Oklahoma on the horizon? Yeah. Well, this right here is probably going to keep it into the severe weather chances into southeastern Oklahoma. Your second event here, we are going to have to watch again central to southeastern Oklahoma as this potentially spins up here around the 5th or 6th time frame. But it does look like a lot of the worst severe weather wants to stick down to central into the southeast and then out east in Oklahoma. It does. Guys, I am going to be streaming again. I know I was supposed to stream last night. My friends were in town. I hadn't seen in years, so I was like, I ditched on the stream because I wanted to see them. But I am going to be streaming again tonight, so I'll probably be cutting this off in a little bit. I wanted to at least do an hour, talk about kind of what I'd been showing. The Quilt, I appreciate you. Thanks for the follow, user 157333. Oh wait, 3300384056. Thanks for the follow, Jevin. User 911. How's New Jersey looking? New Jersey's looking like, well, we're going to be cool for a little bit while longer here, but we're going to have a decent warm-up in the beginning of February. Again, as we get later into, as we get into central, the center, towards the end of February, I think we're going to see some active winter storms that are going to push back east again. We'll see. I think the Mid-Atlantic's going to get involved. Auntie Corey, Jackie, I appreciate the follows. Chill. I know I'm going to miss a bunch of people now. I can't say everyone's names because then I'm going to start missing all of them. I see you guys. I appreciate it. What's it looking like for Dallas-Fort Worth? Dallas-Fort Worth, we have to watch this severe weather potential. Our first really significant issue is going to be pushing into the middle of next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Heavy downpours. Heavy downpours and the potential for some severe thunderstorms, including some tornadoes. We really need to watch that. You guys are going to have a warm-up for a while, too, but I don't think your winter's over. I think we'll probably get some snowfall back, potentially even into central Texas again later on in February. Minnesota, you guys are looking like you're going to have a bunch of clippers moving through here. Again, it looks more like central and northern. But here is your Euro. This would be a huge snowstorm for central south Twin Cities region. There's some model consensus on this, but it's so far out we don't want to take it too seriously yet. But our jet stream is going to be setting up my window's open. Our jet stream is going to be setting up in a really good pattern to bring winter storms up through this region, as we've been talking about in February. Yeah, I don't think winter's over in Texas. No, it's going to be warm for a couple weeks, though. We are going to heat up for a couple weeks. Is Florida's winter over? It's going to be really tough I mean, snow-wise, I doubt you're not going to get any more snow into Florida. You really need it to happen in January because it's your coldest month of the year, obviously in the Northern Hemisphere. This type of look would give you a chance for some very cold air back down into Florida as we approach the middle of February. So your cold air, I don't think it's done in Florida, but snow-wise, that's going to be tough. Obviously, it's really rare. Seems like we are at 50 degrees Monday and Tuesday, crazy in January. Yeah, you may be even getting warmer than that, though, Pam, down the line. We'll see. 50, almost 60 degrees in central Nebraska as we get into the beginning of February. But again, this is what's expected to begin to happen, though, as we push more into February. Major cool downs out here. So the thing is, guys, it's going to be warm for just a lot of people. I mean, look at moving forwards, okay? Now, you need to remember, this cold air is just because this is the mountains. Your troughing is up here to the north. All of this is above average temperatures. All this is above it. So it's not just going to be warm here or warm here. It's going to be warm everywhere. We're getting what we call a zonal flow, like I talked about, where instead of troughing and ridging, we have a zonal flow, meaning everyone, instead of having big troughs like this, diving cold air, we're gonna just to kick off February, we're gonna have what's more of a zonal flow, which is like this, where you're cold above the jet stream here, but everyone below it is seeing above average temperatures. And this jet stream's pretty far to the north. So, but we expect that to change. Look at what happens again as we push into already the second week of February. Some big troughing out west, moving back towards the east. So this jet stream setup, though, again, still favors winter storms through the Central Plains up towards the Midwest and Northern Plains around that time frame. Is Florida going to warm up? Oh, yeah. You guys are going to be seeing... It'll be cold again in the second week of February. More towards the third week if you're in the south or east. Pam with the Galaxy. Oh, my gosh. Pam. Pam, I appreciate that. Thank you, Pam. Lindsay, I appreciate you. Pam with the Galaxy. Thank you, Pam. Yeah, let's look at our temperature anomalies. Look at Florida. Look at you guys down here toasting as we move into February. Look at us toasting down here in the south. Look at this. But again, look at what's happening across the country. This is February 3rd into 4th, guys. Big warm up. Big warm up for everyone. So if you guys are like in the first week or two of February, you're like, God, it's so hot here. All the cold air is out east or out west. No, the cold air is up north. It's going to be hot everywhere for a little bit. But this zonal flow is going to turn into meridional flow. Meaning, whoop, here we go. Meaning we're going to have dips of cold and dips of warmth, and they're going to transition. And this is when you get severe weather outbreaks. This is when you get major blizzards, major winter storms. Will they track through here? Will they track through here? We're watching. But as we approach the second week of February and on into the beginning of March, we're going to be active. I don't want to call it an exciting time to be doing this type of stuff because I don't want people to deal with some of the severe weather, but it's very intriguing to me because we're going to see tons of activity in the lower 48. It's going to be draining. GFS shows a concerning severe weather setup first, second week of February in the Dixie. Yeah, Leo, we've been talking about that. Yep. We've been talking about that for almost like 4 or 5 days now, and we're just getting closer now. So yeah, it's still confirmed. We're still confirmed on that. Low level jet here, boom, kicking in. MCS type of event. So mesoscale event here where they think we could get some mesocyclones in here. Heavy, severe downpours with an MCS where you can get some very bad flooding down here into the south. So this is going to be, to me, more of a flooding event. We could get some tornadoes spawning up from this, some very strong winds. The second one here looks even more significant to me, though. This right here looks very significant to me. And then we'll see what happens there, but a lot to watch severe weather-wise in the south and east moving forward, guys. In the southern hemisphere, do weather patterns work the same way in terms of jet streams, troughs, and ridges? Yes, they do. Does the jet stream flow the same direction? Nope. In the southern hemisphere, their jet stream flows in this direction. In the northern hemisphere, ours flows in this direction. It just has to do... It's... that goes back to... well, listen, if you're a flat earther, you think all weather moves in the same direction. But it's globe. So on top, it moves in one direction. And on the bottom, it moves in another direction. It's the Coriolis effect. So remember, I like doing this. If we zoom out here, here's our globe. Believe it or not, we're on a ball. Weather here, as we're spinning, our weather up here, so our jet stream's flowing like this. And as our weather moves from the Arctic, So, okay, I want you guys to think about this. This is a really interesting theory. I might lose a ton of people in the stream who don't like science, but the globe is spinning. You're moving much faster up here than you are down here, right? So it takes the same amount of time to get from, or you're moving fast. Sorry, you're moving faster down here, slower up here. I'm dyslexic. It takes the same amount of time for you people up here on the top of the globe. 1 day cycle is from here to here, but you're traveling much shorter distance, right? That's 24 hours. Now down here, you have to go all the way this distance, but that happens in the same 24 hours as this does, right? So you're spinning much quicker the closer you get to the center of our globe. So as weather moves, as systems move down from the Arctic, remember, they're moving very, very slow, right? And then the Earth starts to spin much quicker. It's moving much quicker down here. So your storms can't keep up, and they begin to kind of, your winds begin to move back in this direction, like this. Because you have the planet down here at the equator is spinning much faster than it is up here. So this is one example of the Coriolis effect. Now you have winds and your jet stream down here that are interacting with these winds that are moving down from the Arctic and curling due to the Coriolis effect. This right here is what causes vorticity. This is right here is what causes our hurricanes, our cyclones. This right here is what can cause strong low pressures to spin and rip through the lower 48. It all has to do with the Coriolis effect and how our winds moving along the equator interact with our winds moving down from the Arctic. This is what gives us all of our vorticity. This is what gives us instability. This is what gives us our hurricanes. Now, this exact thing happens in the southern hemisphere, but it's just flipped on its head. So instead of winds moving like this, winds in the southern hemisphere moving like this, and instead of this interaction, they have this interaction. So this is spinning in a different direction than this. So it's the southern hemisphere is exactly the same as the northern hemisphere. It's literally just flip everything on its head. Up here, this is moving to the south and west. This is moving to the north and east, but they're really doing the same exact thing. It's just a mirror. And again, why don't things cross the equator? Why can't hurricanes, cyclones cross the equator? Because the shear on the equator is just going to tear them apart. It doesn't make any sense. They can't go from spinning one direction to spinning the other direction. The systems fall apart if they try to move across the equator. So that's why you never have a hurricane or anything pass through the equator, or a tropical cyclone pass up through the equator as well. It would just tear apart a system because everything is spinning and moving in a different direction in the southern hemisphere. All right. It's just everything is mirrored and flipped on its head down there. But it's the same exact concept. Thank you, Pam. I like getting into that stuff. That's it makes, I think, understanding what's happening here a lot easier. That's what's spinning up. That's what's giving us our vorticity here. It's our wind interaction through here. Our wind patterns. All right. Is there another winter storm coming? There's a lot of winter storms coming across the lower 48. We're probably going to see more out west to kick off, out west and up north to kick off February, and then we're probably going to see a shift of our winter storms back out to the south and east again. I don't think down here, but maybe. We'll see. It's if we get that AO to drop negative enough. What's going to happen in Texas? Well, Texas, especially central and out towards eastern Texas, is going to have to worry about severe weather and a big warm up over the next couple weeks. Now, as we get into the second week of February, we have a lot of models wanting to bring a big Arctic plunge back down into Texas. And look, putting snow around Dallas. This is too far out. Don't believe this future radar. But our MJO and teleconnection outlook makes this look like a possibility. So it's I can see why our radar is showing that. I'm in Kentucky. When will I get off school? I don't know. I don't know. When snow for Dallas? Again, we'll see what happens in the middle of February. It's going to get interesting in Texas. What is going to happen in Cincinnati soon? Cincinnati looks to be set up in interesting spot here. I'd be worried about Cincinnati with heavy downpours and the potential for mixing and ice with the way our jet stream wants to set up here over the next 2 weeks. That'll change as we get into middle to late February, though. Like I said, we got a little bit of rain in Modesto, California last night, early morning. It's actually raining in LA right now, in parts of LA, which is really good. We do have some rainfall down in Southern California. You can see it on the radar right here, radar Omega down at the bottom. I'll zoom in, but we've got rain into Los Angeles, up into the Valley, Burbank area, Thousand Oaks, moving into Santa Clarita. A little bit down there in San Diego as well, which is good because we have some fires down there as well. So that's good. Some of this is going to move into the Vegas area as well. Some significant downpours moving in and around the Houston area and then up towards Monroe, Shreveport, and northern Louisiana, and moving out east towards Jackson, Mississippi. New Jersey snow. I'm not expecting New Jersey to see much snow until we get back into the middle February, late February, again, when I expect our pattern shift. Will Central North Carolina get snow in late February to early March? It's possible with the setup. I can't tell you because it's not in the forecastable range, but it's possible with the setup. Appreciate you, Pam. Thanks, Kenya. And I appreciate anyone who's followed or subbed. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Seriously. Anything for Atlanta? We're watching severe weather for you guys and a big heat up here over the next couple weeks. Again, I don't think your winter's over, though. So it's going to be a period of warmth and severe weather, and then we're going to probably transition back into some more winter-like weather as we get into later in February. More cold fronts in Florida, not for a little bit. But your cold air isn't done for the winter season, I don't believe. I live near Charlotte, and we always deal with the warm nose. Could you explain why? Well, a lot of our systems down here, there's a couple issues with getting snow into Charlotte. One, when you have systems move down here across the country, you get a lot of cold air trapped in the mountains. So a lot of your coldest air that you need for snow, the people here kind of get stuck without it. You have very warm water sitting in your Gulf Stream right here off the coast of North Carolina, and you have mountains that want to trap a lot of that moisture and cold air. So a lot of times when our systems cut down through here and move up our snow systems, you get the warm air being pulled in, and you're in the warm sector here, while the snow is falling in this sector. You're stuck in the warm sector here. You got that warm Gulf Stream air being pushed in, and any of that cold air that wants to be injected on the other side of your system is being caught up in your mountain range here. So you just sit in this pocket of, just barely too warm for snow. It happens all the time in Charlotte. But again, it's much worse for people out here on the coast, but they just got snow. It's just because of the way that how significant that Arctic blast was and how it moved and how that trough dug out into the ocean. So there was just so much cold air available for that. But with the Gulf Stream out east and your mountains out west, it just puts you in a tough spot because you're always getting warm air pulled into these low pressures that move through here, and you're typically in that warm sector of your systems. Can you explain why winter storms don't just go over North Carolina head on a lot? Well, they do. They do. I mean, there's a reason why, like, you guys have to remember, Charlotte averages 6 inches of snow a year. Now, that's over our 100-year time span. So, over the last 20 years, Charlotte's been getting about 3 inches a year. That's been your average. Charlotte, but we don't take averages over a 20-year period because, you have to take them over a much longer period if you want accurate averages. Charlotte averages 6 inches of snow. They've been in a serious drought here for about a decade or two, and it's been down to about 3 inches. That'll change. It's not. There's been crazier droughts around the world before, so that'll change. And again, you're not done with seeing big snows here. I mean, look at what just happened. I mean, what did you have? 5-6 inches fall out here in coastal North Carolina. We just had 9 inches in Pensacola. You're going to get a big snowstorm through Charlotte, but I tell people all the time, even if the outlook's great for you to get a snowstorm, you need luck. You need luck with the timing and the path. This snowstorm took a track like this. Really, it took a track like this. And the one earlier in the season took a track like this. And some of these areas right in here, upstate South Carolina and right through central North Carolina, were just unlucky. You're just unlucky. This could have been major snow. You guys could have You guys, if these systems tracked a little bit differently, you guys could have had 10 inches of snow already this season. It was literally just unlucky. You had the setup for it. I remember last year we had tornadoes in northern Illinois and Wisconsin, so I'm not letting my guard down. Yeah, it can happen. New Jersey forecast for rain and snow. Not much snow in early February, but again, pushing into late February, we're expecting a winter pattern to pick up for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast again. So if you want to look at like what's our Euro thinking quantitative precipitation wise as we move forward here, we're not going to look that far out. We'll look about like this. Nothing crazy. No crazy amount of precipitation or anything like that. But we will be experiencing a warm up in the Mid-Atlantic here over the next week or two. Significant warm up. Yeah, February 7th. Yeah, we're watching around that time frame the potential for a big Arctic plunge into Texas. We are, but it's not set in stone yet. We're not set in stone yet, but yes, there's some signals for it, unfortunately. What about Texas? Are we having another snow? I don't know if you're going to get any more snow into south and eastern Texas, but there's some signals for potential snow into north, like maybe even as far south as Dallas as we get into late February. It's going to be tough to get it back down here again, but just because you really need that in January, that's when you can really get that cold air farther south. But again, you can see what wants to happen here. There's some model consensus on a potential snow through this region, but a little bit far out, so we need to take that with a grain of salt. Holly, I appreciate you. Guys, I'm going to get off. I'm going to be back on streaming later, 8:30 or 9 o'clock. I did post on my TikTok a video today literally explaining why I think we're going to see a major cool down and the potential for some more winter storms out here again as we get into late February and March. Has to do with our MJO setup and our teleconnections. It looks good again. So that kind of explains it. I know a lot of people out in the south and east want to know if winter's over. We're going to have a big warm up here moving forward the next couple of weeks. We're going to have some significant severe weather to watch down here through the southeast over the next couple of weeks. Seriously, stay up to date on this if you're down here, especially through this region right here. So, and on the flooding and Appalachia as well on the flooding. So, but yeah, I'll be on a little bit later. If you want to watch that, you can check it out. It's going to be a crazy February, and it's going to be a story of the first half of the month, the second half of the month. That's for sure. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate anyone who followed or subbed and just kind of been in here engaging with me. So I'll see you guys on a little bit later. And I have to say, I'm not a Bills fan, but I have to say go Bills because I put money on the Bills. So, God.